Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's kick off today's video with a spicy encounter from a restaurant worker's worst nightmare, a customer so over the top she left an entire restaurant staff reeling. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Serving justice. My perfect exit on the last day. New restaurant just opened, maybe a few weeks in, and of course the place is slammed because everyone wanted to check it out, and being in a not-so-great area, the food was exceptionally good. I go to check on one of my tables, and this lady screams at me that she ordered her food an hour ago. I don't do confrontations, and thankfully my boss was right there, so I let him handle it. I went to check the ticket, and it had been 45 minutes, along with every other ticket that was waiting. Yes, it's been a while, but the place was new and super busy. What do you expect? It was so awful that tables that weren't even mine were stopping me to ask if I was okay. A year or so later, I saw her in a different restaurant I was working at, and thankfully she wasn't in my section, but I warned my coworker. Thankfully, she just so happened to show up again, and it was my last day. I could hardly contain my excitement. As I left, I stopped at her table and said, "You probably don't remember me, but I waited on you about a year ago at X. You screamed at me in front of the entire restaurant, and I just thought you should know you're a terrible person." The text I got from my coworker after was awesome. The lady started flipping out, demanding to know my name, but all management said was, "She doesn't work here." Edit. This lady, probably in her 50s, was gonna find something wrong anyway. Before the incident, I could hear her bitching to the other two people about how there was no culture in the area. "Woman, you're in Flint, Michigan. People don't come here for culture." The restaurant lasted about a year. I left after a few months when the only competent manager left. That kind of customer, the one who comes in with a sour mood looking for something to ruin so they can feel better about themselves, is the worst. And screaming at a server in a packed brand new restaurant? Beyond entitled. Good on you for keeping it professional back then, even though she didn't deserve it. But the real treat was that last day mic drop. You didn't just leave the job, you left her stewing in her own entitlement. The fact that she flipped out afterward makes it all the sweeter. And our second story. Teaching my brother a lesson with extra stops. For context, my brother's an inconsiderate jerk. It was a free day for me. I had a job with random scheduling, so it was either a weekday or a weekend. I'm chilling at home, about to cook up something for dinner or late lunch, when I get a phone call, 4:30 p.m. My brother called me and expected me to jump up and go pick him up from his job because none of the family were available on a busy weekend for them. When I say he expected, I mean he called me up and said the exact words, "You have to pick me up." This was before he had his own car and license, around 18. His job was on the other side of town, a full 30 to 40-minute drive or more depending on traffic, and it was at 4:30 p.m. just before hectic work traffic at 5 p.m. If I'd refused to get him, he would have either called our parents and whined until I was bitched at to go pick him up. Understanding the box I'd been put in, a Grinch-like smile grew across my face as I made up my mind. What did I do? I picked him up, and then made 3 stops along the way home. 3 long stops. The first was at a gas station. I'd been low on gas, and he couldn't complain because I was his only ride. At the second stop, I pulled into a restaurant to eat inside, Tijuana Flats. The whole time he was complaining that I should take it to go and that we were only 15 minutes from home. The whole time he's whining about me wasting time, that he had to do homework. That homework took like 10 minutes, and then he just passed out with his TV and Xbox on. Eventually, he even called Grandma to complain. So much so, she called me to ask if I'd offered to buy him any food while there. I did, and then told him, tough, he wanted a ride, he got it. And finally at Stop 3, a supermarket 4 miles from home. I needed a few groceries. At around 6:15 to 6:20, when we finally got home, he complained like a bee to our parents, Grandma and Dad. But when my dad got home from work, he just laughed, gave me a high five, and was like, "Why didn't I ever think of that?" And I was like, "Hey, maybe next time I'll come along and we can make a few extra stops." P.S. He'd been doing the you have to give me a ride thing without a please in sight for a while now, and it was starting to get on everyone's nerves. Your dad's reaction seals the deal. A high five from a parent's the ultimate validation that your pettiness was not only warranted but also applauded. Hopefully this little stunt taught your brother some manners, or at least made him think twice before issuing another demand without a please. And our next story. Crazy coworker thinks I'm someone else. So I work for my county in mental health. I do some work with the county social workers, but not much as they're in a different department. Cue the Karen. I get an email from a social worker saying something to the effect of, "Hi, I hear you are the liaison for the local women's shelter. Can I get this one form?" Now, I work with the Infant Early Childhood program and have nothing to do with the program she's talking about. I reply saying, "Sorry, but I think you might have the wrong person." She immediately responds with, "No, I have the right person. I need this form immediately, so please send it." I again reply and say, "Sorry again, but I don't know what form you're talking about, and I don't work with that program." She replies again and says, "Look, I know you're new, but you really need to learn the job quicker. Sometimes women need these resources immediately." I again apologize and say she has the wrong person, as this is not the program I work with. I will also note I am not new. I've been in my position for almost 3 years. She states this is unacceptable and she asks for my supervisor's email. Now, my supervisor's known around the office as the Bulldog because she usually won't let things go until she gets her way. She's a total bad butt. She always sticks up for her people, and she's been with the county for over a decade. So I'm thinking this is going to be good. I tell the Karen my supervisor's email and go down the hall to give my supervisor a heads up. When I tell her the Karen's name, she rolls her eyes and says she's always like this. She tells me to get back to work and that she'll handle it. So I head back to my office, and like 45 minutes later, she walks in. She says the Karen must have looked up her number because she called. She apparently launched into a speech saying she would expect someone trained by my supervisor to be actually competent, and states I should really at the very least know the forms. My supervisor very politely but precisely told her she not only had the wrong person, as I really do not work with that program, but that the person who is in that position does not exist, as they've not been hired yet. Apparently at this point, Karen went silent and hung up. My supervisor knew the form she asked for and went ahead and emailed her a copy. It's always the least competent employees who think everyone else around them is somehow the worst. Your supervisor's awesome. We all need someone like that watching our backs. And let's not forget the cherry on top. Karen had to realize she went on a whole crusade against someone completely unrelated to her issue. Silent hang-up? Priceless. And our last story. Karen's pool invasion. The day entitlement dove into my backyard. It was a sunny afternoon and I was enjoying some downtime in my living room. The large windows gave me a perfect view of my backyard, including my beloved pool, which was safely covered and protected by a locked gate for insurance and safety reasons. Suddenly, I noticed something that made me sit up straight. The retractable cover on my pool was rolling back. Alarmed, I rushed outside to find a scene that left me dumbfounded. There, standing by my pool, was Karen, the new neighbor, along with her 4 kids all dressed in swimsuits. Karen was actively rolling up the pool cover like she owned the place. Me. "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing in my backyard?" Karen, without missing a beat, "My kids have been so well behaved today and they deserve a swim. I saw you have a pool, so we're going for a dip." Her audacity was almost impressive. Me, trying to keep my cool. "This is my private property, not a public pool. I need you and your kids to leave immediately." Karen, "Who the hell do you think you are? It's a hot day, my kids want to swim, and they will swim. Stop being selfish." At this point, I was fuming, but trying to stay calm. Me, "Karen, you're trespassing." "How did you even get into my yard? The gate is locked." Karen, snapping, "I don't care how I got in. In our old neighborhood, we did this all the time. You're being a selfish bee. My kids are swimming, and that's final." Before I could react further, Karen finally finished rolling up the cover and turned to her kids. Karen, "Okay, kids, jump in. Don't listen to that bee." K1 smirking, "Yeah, you stupid bee. We're swimming whether you like it or not." At this point, I'd had enough. Me, yelling, "That's it, I'm calling the police." Karen, seeing that I was serious, decided to switch tactics. She grabbed her two youngest kids and tried to act like the reasonable one. Karen, mockingly sweet, "You'd really call the police on a few kids on a hot day? What kind of heartless neighbor are you? We'd only swim for an hour. Don't you want to be on good terms with us?" Me, "Good terms? After you broke into my yard and insulted me? No, Karen, get out of my yard. Now!" Karen began her retreat, mumbling something under her breath, but I noticed her two oldest boys, K1 and K2, were still by the pool. I walked closer to tell them to leave, and that's when I saw it. Those little terrors were peeing into my pool. K1 grinning, "Maybe now you'll learn to be a better neighbor, you stupid bee." Me grabbing their arms and pushing them towards the gate. "Get out of my yard, you disgusting little craps." Karen, hearing the commotion, came storming back. Karen screaming, "Don't you dare touch my babies! I'll call the police on you for assault. Who do you think they'll believe, a good mother or some pathetic little bee like you?" Her threats didn't intimidate me, but her nerve left me speechless. Karen, as she stomped away, "Enjoy your pee-filled pool, you deserved it." They left, laughing like they just pulled off the prank of the century. Once the adrenaline wore off, I noticed the lock on my gate had been smashed to pieces. Whatever tool they'd used, they were determined to get in. I immediately ordered a heavy-duty lock and reinforced the gate. Looking back, I wish I'd called the police that very day, but in the moment, I just wanted them gone. Wow, Karen and her feral crew really brought out a whole new level of audacity. Breaking into someone's yard, smashing a lock, and letting your kids behave like total brats while spewing insults? That's wild. Honestly, Karen's "we did this all the time in our old neighborhood" excuse is crazy. I'd love to know how many people in her old area were thrilled to have their property violated so her kids could act like hooligans. Probably zero. And the kids peeing in someone's pool and calling you names? Clearly, the apple didn't fall close to the tree. It never left the branch. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.